Over the course of 5 days around the New Year's holiday, Russia launched repeated waves of aerial attacks against Ukraine. These massive bombardments used drones and missiles to strike cities and civilian infrastructure all across the country. Strikes reportedly hit a maternity hospital, a shopping mall, residential areas, killing dozens of innocent people and injuring hundreds more. As Russia continues to launch these brutal attacks, the United States has new information to share about the support that Russia is receiving from third countries. Due in part to our sanctions and export controls, Russia has become increasingly isolated on the world stage, and they've been forced to look to like-minded states for military equipment. As we've been warning publicly, one of those states is North Korea. Our information indicates that the Democratic People's Republic of Korea recently provided Russia with ballistic missile launchers and several ballistic missiles. On the 30th of December, 2023, Russian forces launched at least one of these North Korean ballistic missiles into Ukraine. This missile appears to have landed in an open field in the Zaporizhzhia region. And on January 2nd, Russia launched multiple North Korean ballistic missiles into Ukraine, including as part of its overnight aerial attack. We're still assessing the impacts of these additional missiles. We're releasing a graphic here, which you can see behind me, that documents the launch of these missiles from Russia into Ukraine. And as you can see, the graphic shows the area from which Russia launched the North Korean supplied ballistic missiles on those 2 days, as well as the impact location inside Ukraine of the missile that was launched on the 30th of December. And as I said, we're still assessing the impacts of the other additional missiles that were launched on the 2nd. We expect Russia and North Korea to learn from these launches, and we anticipate that Russia will use additional North Korean missiles to target Ukraine's civilian infrastructure and to kill innocent Ukrainian civilians. These North Korean ballistic missiles are capable of ranges of approximately 900 kilometers, that's about 550 miles. This is a significant and concerning escalation in the DPRK's support for Russia. Now, in return for its support, we assess that Pyongyang is seeking military assistance from Russia, including fighter aircraft, surface-to-air missiles, armored vehicles, ballistic missile production equipment, war materials, and other advanced technologies. This would have concerning security implications for the Korean Peninsula and the Indo-Pacific region. We've also said, publicly, that Russia is seeking to acquire close-range ballistic missiles from Iran. At this time, we do not believe that Iran has delivered close-range ballistic missiles to Russia. However, the United States is concerned that Russian negotiations to acquire close-range ballistic missiles from Iran are actively advancing. According to press reporting in September of 2023, Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC, hosted Russian Defense Minister Shoigu in Iran and showcased its Ababil close-range ballistic missile and other missile systems. This event marked the first public display of ballistic missiles to a senior Russian official visiting Iran since February 2022. More recently, in mid-December, the IRGC Aerospace Force deployed multiple ballistic missile and missile support systems to a training area inside Iran for display to a visiting Russian delegation. We assess that Russia intends to purchase missile systems from Iran. So in response to Russia's activities with Iran and North Korea, we are taking a range of steps with our allies and our partners. First, Russia's procurement of ballistic missiles from the DPRK directly violates multiple UN Security Council resolutions. We will raise these arms deals at the UN Security Council alongside our allies and partners, and we will demand that Russia be held accountable for, yet again, violating its international obligations. Second, we will impose additional sanctions against those working to facilitate arms transfers between Russia and the DPRK, and between Russia and Iran. Third, we will continue to release information to the public and expose these arms deals, as we are doing today, because we will not allow countries to aid Russia's war machine in secret. But here's the bottom line. The most effective response to Russia's horrific violence against the Ukrainian people is to continue to provide Ukraine with vital air defense capabilities and other types of military equipment. To do that, we need Congress to approve our supplemental funding request for Ukraine without delay. Russia is relying upon its friends to replenish its military stockpiles and enable its war against Ukraine. Iran and the DPRK are standing with Russia. Ukrainians deserve to know that the American people and this government will continue to stand with them. So it's critical that Congress meets this moment and responds by providing Ukraine with what they need to defend themselves. The time for Congress to act is now. Thank you.
This is my video update on this Friday, midday, January the 5th. Let's talk about some news. And let's start things off with Mr. Kirby's press conference statement to the media yesterday, where he made the case that Russia is buying weapons and missiles from North Korea, and they are using those missiles to attack Ukraine. And this was about a 5-6 minute presentation. I sped up the first 4 minutes because, well, the first 4 minutes are pretty much nonsense. And it's really the last minute that where we get to the truth of what this entire carefully scripted presentation was all about, and that is to get 61 billion to Project Ukraine. But let's discuss this presentation from Kirby. And first off, let's talk about the obvious hypocrisy of it all, because Kirby, in the first 4 minutes of this presentation, he talks about how Russia is bombing, using missiles from North Korea in order to allegedly bomb hospitals and schools and civilian infrastructure and stuff like that. And you listen to Kirby say this to the media, and it's just like, really, Kirby, you're going to stand up in front of the media, in front of the world, and talk about how Russia is bombing civilian infrastructure? Really, Kirby? I think we all understand the incredible hypocrisy in Kirby's statements about Russia going after civilian infrastructure. And then, of course, you have the hypocrisy of saying that Russia is using weapons from North Korea to engage in a conflict. Russia is buying weapons from another state in order to fight this war. Really, Kirby? Really? We're going to talk about Russia getting weapons or buying weapons from another country when the collective West has emptied out their entire weapons inventories to give to Ukraine in order to fight this proxy war with Russia. And now we're going to talk about Russia allegedly getting missiles and weapons from North Korea. We've already done this script, by the way. We've been through this whole North Korea thing like 3-4 months ago, but it seems like they're resurrecting this North Korea narrative again. But I mean, it's just so laughable that Kirby sits there and he wants to make the case that Russia should be condemned because it's allegedly getting weapons from North Korea when the entirety of Ukraine's military, the entirety of this war, is a proxy war. By definition, it's the collective West, 40, 50 countries, the United States, Canada, Europe, Australia, not Europe, the EU, Australia. I mean, all these countries basically emptying out their weapons inventories to give to Ukraine in order to fight Russia. So, I mean, the whole thing is it's just laughable that he actually sits there and says this stuff out loud. And then, of course, we have the charts that he brought with him, the maps and the charts, the visual aids that he brought with him to make his case. Reminds me of WMD, reminds me of when Netanyahu was giving the speech in the UN and he was talking about attacking Iran, and he had like a chart with a bomb, and just here we go again with their charts. And these charts were pretty laughable, at least that's my opinion. I mean, it was a map with an arrow, like a red arrow with Russia here and Ukraine there. I think he was indicating that the missile hit Zaporozhye, or I think that was the end point of this line, this trajectory of this missile, like something you would do in Photoshop or whatever. I mean, it was we've been here before with their maps, and their charts to make the case for the wrongdoings of these rogue nations, those bad, evil, dictatorship, rogue nations. So what was the real purpose of this this statement to the media? Which kind of, it seemed like it kind of came out of the blue, doesn't it? You know, but it didn't. This was a carefully crafted script. This was very carefully prepared because it had one ultimate goal, but it also had a lot of other goals that it wanted to get out there. A lot of other narratives, sub-narratives. It had one major narrative that it wanted to push out, but it had a whole bunch of other subplots, sub-narratives. Anyway, you guys know what I'm trying to say. Look, the first thing this 5-6 minute presentation wanted to do is to bring up this axis of evil, right? So I think tomorrow Biden is going to be giving this big speech, I believe. I forgot where. Gosh, where does he want to give this this speech tomorrow, marking the anniversary of January the 6th, the insurrection? Valley Forge. Yes, interesting, huh? We'll talk about Brandon's Brandon's speech tomorrow at Valley Forge. That's gonna actually be my clown world. But yeah, so Biden's gonna give this speech tomorrow, January 6th, and I'm positive that he's going to mention the axis of evil, right? And I think that was one of the sub narratives that Kirby wanted to get out there with this scripted statement. The axis of evil: North Korea, Iran, Russia. The only country that was missing was China, right? Venezuela, maybe. I don't know. Anyway, the axis of evil, of which North Korea and Iran seem to be like lifetime members of. They were members of the axis of evil 5 years ago and members of the axis of evil 10 years ago and members of the axis of evil 20 years ago. Russia's a new member to the axis of evil. And every now and then, China is included in the axis of evil. So, yeah, it's the axis of evil, right? And, I think this is preparing the way for Bidenomipous's speech tomorrow, commemorating the insurrection, January the 6th. Anyway, so that was one of the goals of this statement from Kirby. The other purpose of this scripted speech from Kirby was to push out the need for long range missiles. All of a sudden, there's the talk about long range missiles. We have to get long range missiles to the Zelensky regime, or longer range missiles, right? The ATACMS won't do, the Storm Shadows won't do, the Scalp, it's not enough. We need Taurus. We need longer range ATACMS. We need the real deal, the super powerful ATACMS. So this whole narrative now that has been created over the past week about Ukraine needing these wonder weapon long range missiles, which will be able to strike Russia anywhere inside of Russia. We'll be able to take out Russia's command centers and the Black Sea Fleet, and you name it. They'll be able to hit inside of Russia if we just give them these long-range missiles. So I think that was another sub-narrative of this statement from Kirby. And of course, another part to the statement was to push out the narrative that Russia is running out of weapons and that Russia is losing, and Russia's so desperate that they have to go to North Korea in order to get weapons to fight this conflict. So if the United States, if the collective West just sticks it out with Ukraine just a little bit longer, we've got Russia on the ropes. Look, they're on the ropes. They're actually having to go to North Korea to find missiles and to find weapons. That must mean that Russia is out of weapons. That's so desperate of Russia having to go to North Korea. Russia has to go to North Korea to get weapons. That's pathetic, man. So if we just stick it out a little bit longer, support for the Zelensky regime, we're gonna win. That's the narrative that they want to get out there, right? We're back to the whole Russia's out of weapons, Russian military is incompetent, Russian military is desperate. They're having to go to Iran, they're having to go to North Korea. These other rogue nations, these despots, they have to go to these despots and these dictatorships. One dictatorship helping another dictatorship. But, this is just all desperation and panic. So just a little bit longer. Let's stick it out with Zelensky a little bit longer. And that takes us to the real main purpose of the statement, which is money. It's all about the money, money, money. 61 billion to Ukraine. This is why we have to get 61 billion to Ukraine. And the final 30 seconds of Kirby's statement was where he actually spoke some truth, where he said Congress needs to approve the 61 billion. That's what the whole 5 minutes was really all about. And all the sub-narratives, it all leads to Congress approving 61 billion. In 4 or 5 days, Congress is back in session, the House is back in session, And this is all about convincing Johnson and whatever America First Republicans are holding up the funding to Ukraine. This is all about convincing them to sign off on $61 billion to Ukraine. Because Russia's getting weapons from North Korea, because we need to get Ukraine long-range missiles, because the Russian military is desperate and weak, because this is an axis of evil. We've almost achieved victory if we just give $61 billion. It's all of these sub-narratives, but at the end of the day, it's all about getting money to Project Ukraine. That's what it's all about. There were some side benefits to this statement as well. The side benefits are that it keeps Iran in the spotlight as some sort of boogeyman that they have to go after. You know, you have to start something with Iran because they're part of the axis of evil. And of course, North Korea. You can see that they're starting to, for some reason, they're starting to poke at North Korea again. I'll get to North Korea because we got some news out of North Korea yesterday as well. But look, the media is picking up on this whole narrative that they put together. From Kirby, The Guardian, they have an article with the title, Russia attacked Ukraine with North Korea supplied ballistic missiles. The White House says Moscow likely to supply Pyongyang with advanced technologies in exchange. And of course, in the statement from Kirby, he talks about the fact that these missiles are long-range missiles, right? North Korea missiles with 900 kilometers, 560-mile range. So that's how you know that part of this statement that was put out is all about going to Congress and saying, look, North Korea gave them missiles with a 900-kilometer range. We should do the same. So give us the money. Right? That's why he threw that in there. That's why he was very specific about making the point that these missiles have a very long range, and he had the map there, and he had the distance, the red line and the distance, so that they can go to Congress and they can make the case now, again, and via the media, of course, via the media, which they control, they can make the case that Russia has long-range missiles from Korea, so shouldn't Ukraine have long-range Taurus missiles from Germany? It's only fair, right? So, the Pentagon yesterday, they came out with a statement and they said that they're out of money for Ukraine. Congress must approve additional funds to maintain the flow of arms to Ukraine. That was a statement from Pentagon spokesman Major General Patrick Ryder. He said Washington is simply out of money unless lawmakers pass a new aid package. And then over at the State Department, we had Mr. Miller say that the support levels for Ukraine from the United States are not going to be at the same level that they were in 2022 and 2023. Washington will prop up Kiev for as long as it takes, but Kiev must ultimately become able to defend itself on its own. We've always made it clear that we want Ukraine to be an independent country. That means it can stand on its own 2 feet, but we will continue to support Ukraine. That's the policy of the United States as long as it takes. That does not mean that we are going to continue to support them at the same level of military funding that we did in 2022 and 2023. We don't think that should be necessary because the goal is to ultimately transition Ukraine, to help Ukraine to build its own military industrial base so it can both finance and build and acquire munitions on its own, the spokesman explained. Right? This narrative about making Ukraine into the Silicon Valley of weapons manufacturing, weapons production, weapons technology. This nonsense. Let's get the $61 billion to Ukraine because we're going to shift. We're going to shift things to make it so that Ukraine is standing on its own 2 feet. It's independent, standing on its own 2 feet, and it can produce its drones and its missiles and its fighter jets and its tanks all on its own. It's going to be the military industrial hub of the West. That's the narrative. So that's why we should invest in Ukraine, pour all our money into Ukraine. 61 billion, 50 billion from the EU. Let's steal 300 billion and let's build this military industrial complex powerhouse. It's nonsense, man. It's just nonsense. All of Europe cannot compete with Russia when it comes to weapons manufacturing. The entirety of the EU, the economic manufacturing powerhouse once known as Germany, is not able to compete with Russia. And now the narrative is that in a year or two, Ukraine's going to become this big military, industrial manufacturing juggernaut that's just going to crank out thousands of tanks a year. No, thousands of tanks a month. And Russia, right next door, is just not going to do anything about it. Go ahead. Go ahead, crank out those tanks and those drones and those fighter jets. No problem. No problem, man. Just crank those out. It's just nonsense, man. The whole thing is ridiculous when you think about it. Anyway, El País, they had an article where they revealed that Ukraine is suffering severe frontline ammo shortages. Ukrainian troops are facing serious ammunition shortages, according to El País. The Spanish Daily pointed out that Russia has been ramping up its own arms production of late, apparently outperforming Kiev's Western backers. What El País wants to say is that Russia is outperforming the collective West, the European Union. And we're going to get this magical MIC hub created in Ukraine when Russia, according to El País, is outperforming the entirety of the European Union when it comes to weapons manufacturing. So Zaluzhny, he was in Parliament the other day. I believe he made this statement in Parliament. Yes, in Parliament. And he said, and I quote, "I need people. The Russians have already called up 400,000 and are preparing several hundred thousand more for June, up to 400,000. Who should I fight with? Either turn to the world and ask people there or go fight if you don't provide. There will be 80 days of training for each person called up. But give me people." That is an amazing statement from the commander of the Ukraine military. I need people, he said. Well, where did the first three armies go? You've had three armies now. Where did the first three armies go? And then he said, who should I fight with? And he tells the members of parliament, if I don't get people, you guys go to the front lines. Now there's a statement that I agree with from Zaluzhny. We're in agreement, Mr. Zaluzhny. 80 days of training for the parliament members, and let's send them off to the front lines. I completely agree with that statement. Does that statement, coming from the commander of the Ukraine military, does that statement sound like if 61 billion is given to Ukraine, then they're gonna knock out the Russian army? Just another 61 billion. We've already given them 300 billion, but this 61 billion is going to make the difference. So, until the 61 billion is approved, or until they steal the 300 billion in February, what we are going to see from the collective West is a whole bunch of stories to try and convince Congress to approve the 61 billion or to make it acceptable to steal the 300 billion. So we're going to see a lot of stories about the awesomeness of the Patriot air defense system. We're going to see articles about the awesomeness of the F-16s. We're going to get a lot of articles about the new wonder weapon. I call it the stopgap wonder weapon, which is the long-range missiles, because the delay in getting the F-16s to Ukraine, which is the ultimate wonder weapon, because you have this lag time of getting the ultimate wonder weapon to Ukraine, the scriptwriters had to think up a stopgap wonder weapon to fill up the empty space, and so they came up with long-range missiles. So we're going to get a lot of stories about long-range missiles, and of course you're going to have the Zelensky regime trying to attack Crimea and attacking Belgorod, because they also want to make it seem like they can hit at Russia and they can strike Russian territory. So that's why they need the 61 billion or the 50 billion from the EU or the 300 billion, because if they can hit Russia now with little money, just imagine what they could do if they got 61 billion, right? That's the narrative. And it's all about keeping everyone invested in the illusion, the fantasy of a possible victory against Russia. Business Insider had an article with the title, "Ukraine is pinning its hopes on the F-16. These photos show what the U.S. fighter can do." And the Kiev Independent, their article says, Pentagon, Ukrainian pilots expected to complete F-16 training by the end of 2024. The end of 2024. Even though there's another report which says that I think it's Norway is going to give 2 F-16s to Denmark so pilots can finish their training in Denmark, or Denmark's going to give 2 F-16s to Norway so the Ukrainian pilots can finish their F-16 training in Norway. I forgot in which direction it goes, but yeah, the F-16. The F-16 training, and in the next 6 months or the next year, the ultimate wonder weapon will be unleashed on Russia. But until then, it's all about long-range missiles. Got to keep people invested. So let's think of a stopgap wonder weapon, long-range missiles. And Borrell, he agreed with, I believe, Sikorsky, the Polish foreign minister, on transferring long-range missiles to Ukraine. Quote, "We agreed on the need to strengthen our military support for Ukraine, including with long-range missiles and anti-aircraft missiles. We've got to get those long-range missiles to Ukraine. Got to get those Patriot systems to Ukraine. Got to purchase 1,000 Patriot missiles." That's the big plan coming out of NATO, right? All of the EU, they're going to pool their resources together to manufacture 1,000 Patriot missiles to get those missiles to Ukraine. That's what Stoltenberg said the other day. Because the Patriot missiles, they're amazing. Business Insider says shooting down Russia's overhyped missiles, Russia's overhyped hypersonic missiles, shooting down Russia's overhyped missiles with Patriots is a win for more than just Ukraine. The war is an intelligence bonanza for the West. That's right. Better buy those Patriot air defense systems. They're amazing. It's an intelligence bonanza for the West. War is a racket. Oh boy! So yeah, yesterday Ukraine they tried to hit out at Crimea, and they hit at Belgorod again yesterday, and this is going to be happening for the next week or two until Congress sorts out the 61 billion. It's that simple. That's exactly what's going on here. They're getting so desperate, the collective West. How am I doing on time? They're getting so desperate that they're even bringing out the big guns. Christian Amanpour interviewed the foreign minister of Ukraine, Mr. Kalua Kuleba, and Christian Amanpour asked him about Plan B for Ukraine, and the foreign minister said, "There is no Plan B. We're confident in Plan A." Christian Amanpour, I'm a very sophisticated journalist, international correspondent and sophisticated journalist. Christian Amanpour, Mr. Foreign Minister, I have a question for you. I'm Christian Amanpour, sophisticated journalist, international correspondent. Do you have a Plan B? Kalua's like, nope, no Plan B. We are confident in Plan A. Plan A is going to bring us victory. But Mr. Foreign Minister, I have a follow-up question. I'm Christian Amanpour, very sophisticated journalist and international correspondent. What if Plan A doesn't work out? What are you going to do then? Don't know. Don't know. We only have plan A. There is no plan B, Christiana. Just plan A. Plan B, I'm going to go to one of my many homes all over the world. That's plan B. That is plan B. Anyway, let's get to North Korea and what's going on there. So yesterday we had an incident in North Korea where North Korea conducted artillery drills along the border with South Korea, a disputed border close to an island where South Korea then had to evacuate the residents of this island. So the Associated Press, they have the title, North Korea conducts artillery drills along disputed sea border, South Korea to stage similar drills. South Korea has ordered civilians on an island near the border with North Korea to evacuate to shelters after accusing Pyongyang of firing off hundreds of artillery shells as part of a military provocation. So, coincidence that as Kirby is talking about North Korea and missiles and weapons to Russia, you get this incident that just bubbles up out of nowhere? I don't know. I don't think it's coincidence. Maybe it is coincidence. But you have to imagine that the United States and South Korea had advance notice or must have known that North Korea was going to conduct these artillery drills. That would be my guess. I could be wrong. Maybe this was a big surprise to the United States and South Korea, but I don't know. I don't buy that. Either way, they're saying that this is a provocation from North Korea, and now South Korea, they're going to have drills in response to the North Korea drills. But what the mainstream media is not telling you is that these drills from North Korea were actually a response to military drills that the US and South Korea had on December 29th and 30th. So they had these huge, like 2 or 3 day drills right on the border with North Korea. And North Korea condemned these military drills. And so this was a response to the end of the year drills that the US had with South Korea. But the media is making it seem like these drills from North Korea just came out of nowhere. Just came out of nowhere. It surprised us. We had to evacuate people, which may have been the case. Maybe this was a surprise to South Korea. I don't know. I don't think so. I imagine they must have had some idea that this was going to take place. But anyway, they had to evacuate people. Oh my God, there was almost war on the peninsula. And now South Korea has to respond to North Korea because of this provocation. Look at this title from U.S. News. Dated January 3rd, 2024. South Korea and U.S. conduct week-long firing drills near North Korea border. The end of the year drills that the U.S. and South Korea had before this incident took place yesterday with North Korea having their drills. And now South Korea is going to respond to North Korea's response to South Korea. So that's the story of what went down in North Korea. Iran. Let's see. Yes, the terror attack in Iran. We had a statement from ISIS where they claimed responsibility for the terror attack. ISIS said that they were behind the big terror attack the other day, which I believe the number of deaths was 84, I want to say, the official number. But don't take that to the bank. It could be more. But the last I read, the official number of deaths was 83, 84, with hundreds of total casualties. So ISIS has claimed responsibility for those attacks. Blinken is on his way to the Middle East. He is going back to the Middle East, according to the Associated Press. And the AP is reporting that Blinken wants to go to the Middle East in order to ease tensions and prevent a wider war, if you believe that. The Washington Post, they have an article with the title, "Tensions in the Middle East are rising beyond Israel. Here's why. Strikes in Lebanon, Iraq add to growing list of Middle East crisis." And Politico, they have an article with the title, "The War in Gaza May Widen. The Biden admin is getting ready for it." And in this article from Politico, they talk about how the Biden White House is preparing to attack Yemen. They talk about how the Biden White House is preparing to defend its bases in Syria and Iraq. In other words, launch attacks against Syria and against forces in Iraq. And ultimately, the Political article talks about how the ultimate goal is a conflict with Iran. So the Biden White House is preparing for all of these attacks to take place. And in the article from Politico, they just come out and say it. The real concern from the Biden White House is if and when this wider war happens, how is this going to affect Biden's reelection campaign? That's the big concern. How does this affect Biden in 2024 with his reelection? And that's what they're all kind of analyzing. Sullivan, Blinken, and everyone in the Biden White House are trying to figure out if this escalation happens and if this war widens out, or if we decide to widen this war out, what are going to be the effects on Biden going into 2024? By the way, Lindsey Graham was in Israel the other day, and he met with Netanyahu. Graham tells Netanyahu that he wants to push forward to make Iran's worst nightmare real. The Arabs and the Israelis move toward the light. So there's a lot of videos of Lindsey Graham speaking with Netanyahu, talking about how he wants to ramp up a conflict with Iran, and Netanyahu is in full agreement. And, Blinken is the moderate neocon who's concerned about elections, concerned about 2024, and he's heading to the Middle East to see what can be worked out. And if nothing can be worked out, well, then, as Politico says in their article, the Biden White House has to prepare for a wider war while protecting Biden during his 2024 run, and that's Blinken. And then you have the hardline neocons like Graham, who go to Israel, and he's just like, let's just hit Iran. Who cares about elections? Who cares about anything? We have to hit Iran now. And so there you can see it, the moderate neocon neolibs and the hardline neocons. They're all making their way to the Middle East, trying to push their interests and their agenda. But it does look like we're being pulled into a wider war, unfortunately. I hope I'm wrong, but it just seems like the momentum is just pulling everything towards a wider war. Anyway, let's do a couple of quick clown worlds, and we'll wrap this video up. The first clown world is Dark Brandon. We are going to see Dark Brandon tomorrow, January 6th, according to various reports. Biden will portray Trump as a threat to democracy in a January 6th speech at Valley Forge. Dark Brandon is going to make an appearance, and he's going to divide the United States further. That's the purpose of these Dark Brandon speeches. And yes, he is going to portray Trump as a threat to democracy, and I'm positive that he's going to also talk about the axis of evil. Let's see if I'm right. Let's see if he brings up the axis of evil that Kirby was talking about today. But according to various reports, Dark Brandon is going to make an appearance at Valley Forge. Interesting location choice for this January 6th speech from Biden. So let's see what Biden says tomorrow. Bidenopolis, Greece's favorite son. And then we had Matthew Miller, as he was speaking to the media from the State Department. he was asked a question about Pakistan and how the elections in Pakistan, all the opposition parties are just being canceled. Opposition leaders are being arrested or being put in prison. Imran Khan and any other opposition. And the journalist asked Miller, how is this a democracy? How is this a vote when the opposition is just not there? It's just being removed. And Miller, he said in a statement, and I quote, "We will continue to support," speaking about Pakistan, he said, "we will continue to support democratic suppression." And then I believe, what's his name? Matt from the Associated Press. Oh man, I forgot his name. Matt Lee. I believe Matt Lee. He goes to Matthew Miller and he's like, you said democratic suppression. And the State Department spokesman was like, no, I said expression, democratic expression. So I don't know, Freudian slip there from the State Department, from the Biden White House. Anyway, that is the video, the Duran.locals.com. We are on Rumble, ODYSEE, BitChute, Telegram, Rockfin, and Twitter X. And go to the Duran shop. 20% off. Use the code TheDuran20. I got my long sleeve Portugal shirt on today. Take care.